See. Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner Classics and Classics. This is episode number 1743 and Doubleshot 1637. I have two Marvel trades, both featuring characters from the Spider-Man comics. Well, their characters first appeared in Pages of Amazing Spider-Man. This one first appeared back in, well, the guy who his host is, because he's a symbiote, first appeared back in Amazing Spider-Man 344 as a cameo, made his first full appearance, issue 361. Who is it? Carnage! This is Carnage, black, white, and blood. Yep. One of four of these limited series Marvel published for these characters, just an anthology book for this character. Who would have thought, though, Carnage would get one? Yes. He's not the only one. There's also one for Deadpool, Wolverine. The current one published right now is for Elektra. Yes, Elektra. Which, that seems interesting. Yes. And who writes these stories, you might ask? Now, you're probably thinking, is this the only company that does this? DC did this with Harley Quinn with her own anthology book. Yes, there's the infamous Batman Black and White book, which is really good, by the way. I do highly recommend checking it out. And there's also currently the book for Red Sonja. One of like 3 books for her. That's Red Sonja, Blood, White, and Black. It's a very similar idea. But as far as I can tell, Harley Quinn one is not published anymore. This one was published like about, I think it was like a year ago, I think it was. It was fairly recent. It was like last year. The first issue features stories by Tina Howard, Benjamin Percy, and Al Ewing. Interesting, no Al Ewing book. The second issue features each issue features three stories. Second issue has a story written by, now, who does the artwork? Oh, you have Ken Lashley does Love Story, that's the first story. And the trial, Sarah Pacelli. You are Carnage, John McCara. Carnage Shark, the writing is done by Don Nicotis. Art is by Kyle Holtz. My Red Hands is written by Chip Zdarsky, with artwork by Marco Chico. My Name is Carnage is done by Ram V. Artwork, who's also the colorist of this book, like the story, is done by Javier Fernandez. No Survivors is done by 4 Amazing Spider-Man writer Dan Slott, with Greg Smallwood, who does the artwork for that one. Sea of Blood, that's Carla Pacino with Chris Mooneyham on the artwork. The Convention is done by Allison Wong, with Gerardo Salvador on the artwork. Carnage Beyond is written by Ryan Stegman, an artist. Not the first one, mind you. Though some might say he's some from Todd McFarlane syndrome, where an artist can also write too. Artwork done by Joe Bennett. Interesting choice. Skin Deep, done by Dickon Salvavi and Stephen Mooney as the artist. End of Humanity is done by Ed Brunson. And Scott Hepburn does the artwork. Now here's a little fun fact for you. Now yes, the only guy who's working these issues, who work on these stories, does have history with Carnage, and that's Don Nicotis, because he wrote him for Absolute Carnage, which was awesome. Now, a lot of these other writers have had some history with the character of Spider-Man. Chip Zdarsky writing Peter Parker to the second Spider-Man. Dan Slott, obviously amazing. Ryan Stegman, who was the artist, I believe he was one of the artists for, I think he was the artist for Venom. Yeah, so he has some history with that. Joe Bennett, I don't think he's worked on Amazing Spider-Man I can think of. At least any Spider-Man books I don't know. Tina Howard, not that I can think of. Ben Percy, this is probably by far probably the only book outside of basically X-Force and Wolverine that he has done. Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. The fact you have Ben Percy on issue number 1. Now here's the thing. All these stories are stories for Carnage in the main universe. Now, Sarah Pacelli, yes, she has history with Spider-Man. Doing the Miles Morales book. Yes. Now, in the case of, well, for Don Nicolas himself, well, Mostly put when it comes to Ben Percy. So aside from writing Wolverine and X-Force, he's also on Weapon Plus World War 4. Yeah, he actually did this one shot. Which came out 2 years ago. Yep, he did that. He did previously in Marvel Comics. Yep, it's a kind of a recap of previous stuff that for Marvel. An issue of Empire X-Men. He is one of the writers for this book. Yes, seriously, he's one of the writers for Empire X-Men. He also wrote the comic book Wolverine Long Night. Well, actually, he wrote the podcast for it. He did write the comic adaptation of it. Yes, he did. As a matter of fact, I think that was his first comic he ever wrote for Marvel. Yes, it was actually this very story. I have read it. It's actually really good. And it is based upon the podcast that there was for Wolverine. It's based upon the scripted podcast. And he wrote the miniseries, all 6 issues. And he also had 1 issue of Marvel Comics Presents. You're probably thinking, which story did Ben Percy work on for that one? He did Book of Dreams, which is a Moon Knight story, which I don't think has been put in the trade yet. No, I think it has. But yeah, he worked in this book. The book was released between X-Force Volume 6, Number 8, and Wolverine Volume 7, Number 11. He also says Waltz worked on Aliens Aftermath. Yes. Now, in the case of some of the other writers, Ed Bronson, the only thing I can think of we done for his work for Marvel was his Iron Fist stuff, which is really good. Yeah. So, the first story you have Carnage encountering Cloak. Yes, Cloak and Dagger. Even though it does kind of focus on Cleus Cassidy, it's just various stories involving him in the Marvel Universe as a whole. Like, the first one here is kind of set during the events of Maximum Carnage. Because we have Captain America, Iron Fist, Cloak and Dagger taking on Carnage's family. Yep, that's Maximum Carnage. So, you could kind of say the first story is set during the events of Maximum Carnage. There's a Wild West story in here, which is interesting. It's just basically various stories of Carnage. That's mostly what this is. It's pretty good. I do recommend checking it out. I'm going to give this book a 9.5 out of 10. Damn good book. Excuse me a minute. Here's not going to talk much about that book because I want a lot of people to check it out because this book is just really good. Yeah, I like anthology books like this. Now, yes, Carnage does have a new ongoing series right now, which seems strange given the fact that Cleus Cassidy is dead, though you could say it's following up from the Extreme Carnage storyline. Alright, next to those books that came out 3 years ago, well, basically the issues did, this is Morbius, Volume 3. Yes, Volume 3. And you're thinking, okay, this lasts for 5 issues. Was this a miniseries? No, this was ongoing. This is done by a writer that does seem very familiar to a lot of people, Beita Aliyah. You're probably thinking, that name sounds familiar. Isn't he currently the writer for New Mutants? Yes, he is. Now, why did this book end at 5 issues? The pandemic. No, seriously, the pandemic is the reason why this book ended. Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, book ends on a to be continued, and it's never followed up with because it was canceled because of the pandemic. You see, the first issue for this book was released in late 2019, basically November 2019, and it published regular basis into issue 5, where it ended off on a cliffhanger. And you're thinking, a book that canceled last year ended on a cliffhanger. Sounds very familiar. This is like Scream and Doctor Strange, Surge Supreme. This book does have a fairly new character pops up in here. A woman by the name of Elizabeth Nikos. Now, Emil Nikos is is a character from the original Spider-Man comics. Oh yeah, definitely. He actually appeared back in Amazing Spider-Man 102. He actually mostly appeared in this book via flashback. Yep. Now, aside from Elizabeth Nikos, who actually this book was her first appearance, we also have apparently, get this, Michael Morbius taking on the Melter, an Iron Man film, which seems, that's interesting. Yes, except that this is not the original Melter. Oh no. This is a different one. Yes, because the original's been dead for years. Yes. The original one, you see, the original known Melter was a guy named Bruno Horgan. He died back in Avengers 263, where he posed as the Melter's assistant, who he killed. Yep, he did. And still currently, the guy is still dead. He got killed off in an issue that's supposed to be a backdoor pilot to X Factor. No, seriously. That's pretty much what they do with the character. Yeah, and here's the interesting thing about him. Despite I think he was killed with a scourge, he was not resurrected by the Hood. Which seems, that's interesting. He resurrected a lot of our villains, but not this guy for some reason. Yeah, I don't know why though. It's just kind of weird. Yes. There have been a few others. There was one from Dark Reign Avengers. Young Avengers. He, of course, only appeared in that miniseries. Yeah, well, actually, no. He actually appeared a little bit after that. He's appeared like in some issues. Invincible Iron Man. Yeah, Matt Fraction basically created him, so of course he featured him. Avengers on the cover. He's currently featured in the current Sabretooth book. That's where that Melter is. There's one who's actually, no one knows who this guy is. He made his first appearance back in Amazing Spider-Man 589. And he only appeared one time, a single appearance. This guy appears in this book is a Hobgoblin created character. Yeah, his identity was given to him by the Hobgoblin back in Superior Spider-Man 26, toward the end of the book, mind you. He's appeared sporadically over the years. I mean, prior to this book, he appeared in 2 issues of Amazing Spider-Man that came out like the previous year. Because, of course, the bar with no name. Yep. But after this book wrapped up, he appeared 3 times. Excuse me. In issue of the current Iron Man book, issue 3, issue King of Black, and issue 66 of Amazing Spider-Man. And that's it. That is literally all he has done. And that last appearance came out last year. Now you might think, okay, is this book terrible? No, it's actually pretty good. It's shocking this book got canceled. It's not due due to low sales. I didn't hear anything about low sales. Scream canceled due to apparently was for low sales. This book was simply canceled because of the pandemic. Now, do I think this book could continue afterwards? It could have, yes. They do reference the previous line for the series that was published back in 2012. The one that was even short-lived than this. That was actually a little bit longer than this one was. Yes, this one was, I kid you not, that was 9 issues. Yeah, and this issue was considered issue 42 of the Morbius book. Yeah, 42. Are you thinking, really? It is? Yes. Yeah, according to the moral legacy of this book, that's pretty much what they did with the book, is they pretty much acknowledge the fact that these issues are technically 42 to 46 of the Morbius comic book. Yep. I think the character Morbius is great. I love the character. I mean, yeah, actually, it was actually 2013, excuse me. Yeah, second volume of Morbius Living Vampire. And this book definitely was canceled due to low sales. They do mention about the whole thing about the Rose and Brownville in here. Yes, that was a town that he was set in. Yeah, that was pretty much what this book was set in. Yeah, a town called Brownsville. Yeah, it popped up just for a few issues of that volume for Morbius, and then it popped up here for pretty much almost the entire run. And this is where most of the book is set. Now, do I think this book could have come back even after Marvel canceled the book? Yes, I do believe so. Because reading this, you're wondering, why the heck did Marvel cancel this book for? By the way, it still says Volume 1. This is called Old Wounds. Yep. It's a good horror story, and I kind of wish Marvel would continue this because this was good. Love this. Yes. I mean, throughout this book, he's trying to find a cure for his condition as, well, the vampire because it was getting kind of worse. Yes. And then, of course, basically, like, he just stopped appearing. Like, the book just abruptly ends. And, like, does he kind of solve his cure by the end of the book? Kind of, yes. But it's not really finished, per se. Yes, because as soon as this book wrapped up, he popped up for a one-shot. Yes, a one-shot called Morbius, Board of Blood. Yeah, well, you could say this is mostly it could be a follow-up for that book. It's possible. Yeah, it's possible it could have been. Surprisingly, this one-shot is not in trade. And it's done by Ralph Macchio. You're thinking, that name kind of sounds familiar. Yeah, he's a legendary writer who wrote some classic Marvel comics. He wrote some books for Avengers. I think his most recent book he worked on was a Black Widow one-shot. Yep, that was the most recent thing he did. Yeah, he did work on, like, Widow's Sting. He mostly just does one-shots Marvel. But the last official thing he has released, well, hasn't released just yet, it's going to be Thor, Lightning, and Lemon. I like the guy's work. I kind of wish Marvel would do more with the character. You have Doctor Strange, Next to the Nightmare. That's the next book he's supposed to come out with. It comes out next month, surprisingly. Yep. And, okay, so his most recent book he came out with wasn't Morbius. It was Eternals Forever. Yep, that was his most recent book to date. And I kind of wish, basically, if Marvel did especially the printing of this book, that they would include that one-shot, because that's the only thing. It's weird, though. Book came out last year, Morbius Born of Blood, and yet no trade for it. I'm like, really? None? Yep, none. And, of course, Spider-Man does work with Morbius. Unlike the last Morbius book, where it was a Dr. Octopus won't appear for a couple issues, here you have Peter Parker, Spider-Man. And he tries to help Michael Morbius help with his condition. And here's the thing. You know, this book could be perfect released nowadays because of the Morbius film. But God forbid Marvel do that with Morbius. And what is he doing now? He's a pretty amazing Spider-Man. No, seriously, that's what he's doing now. I mean, his most recent appearance was issue 92 BEY. Yeah, that was his most recent appearance to date. And here's the thing. The next issue, which is coming out this week, is the final issue of the volume from Volume 5. Yep, the final issue before it gets relaunched, number 1. Yeah. For this book, great. Give this book a 9.5 out of 10. Really good. Kind of wish Marvel would do more with Morbius, but who the heck freaking knows now? Okay, so that's a single review, and that's pretty much good for the video tonight because One, I'll have more time for videos tonight. A, you might have been thinking, okay, is there like any videos planned for tomorrow? Now you probably think, okay, where's Attack on Titan? Is Attack on Titan coming? No. That's going to be postponed next week. Not my fault per se, it's just that the anime took a week off. Yep. So next new anime pop up will be, well, later on this week, which will be the newest episodes for Afria, The Case Study of Thanatos, and Shaman King. Okay? I feel. Bye.